My name is Dawit N.M.
My name is Gioncarlo Valentine. We are here at 20 Summers Artist Residency. We've been here for about 12 days now.
Yes.
So how have you been enjoying the experience? This is your first artist residency, right?
Yes. And it's with you, so thank you.
Of course, yes.
But it's been really good. This past year, and especially this past 3 months, it's been like really hectic in terms of work. And it's the first time that I've been able to like finally rest, which felt really foreign. And I'm not gonna lie, the first 2-3 days, I had like a little anxiety attack because it was. I don't know if you noticed.
Yeah, I remember.
But I just didn't know how to adapt to not doing anything. Though I was doing stuff here, it was just, there was no time limit, there was no deadline or anything like that. So it was a change. But once I adapted, it felt really good.
Yeah, I felt the same. The last couple of months have been extremely intense. Not just like global events intense, but like I've been working, especially in the summer. And it, like, I don't know what it looks like to be idle. So the first few days I would just I would just be doing things to like do it, like going through old pictures and like organizing stuff. And there was just no reason to do it. I think around the third or fourth day, I was just like, okay, I'm not going to accomplish much. And I'm perfectly okay with that because there's just no circumstance in my life in which I'll be able to like just sit around and do nothing. So a few of the days here, I really did just feel comfortable, like napping throughout the day, cooking and sleeping and watching movies and like not accomplishing like work. And even then I was still doing stuff, but it was like, a few things off of a list, but like nothing substantial. So it's been great. It's been very nice. It's been cold, but it's been nice.
Yeah, it's fun. How was coming into this whole thing? What were you expecting from this?
I think, I don't know. I understood there would not be a lot of socializing. I think I'm always surprised by how I don't socialize at residencies. Like every residency I go to, I'm kind of like extremely antisocial, and I'm always surprised by the fact that I'm antisocial. Like I feel like something's gonna like shake me out one day, and I'll like go into the town and be like, "Oh, this is nice." But like I went out one day, and like got food and went to the library and read a bit. But like
Wait, you went to the library?
I did.
It's open?
It's closed. they have a small garden in the front.
Oh, okay.
Or like a small, there is literally a small tree.
True.
And there are two benches elling the tree. So I was there and reading a bit and got some food. And it was nice. It was nice to just be out of the house and to walk around a bit. But yeah, I mean, it's just not, it didn't feel like that was what was important. It felt important to just rest and to kind of be in this space, which has been, really nice. It's been beautiful to be here. Showering outdoors for the first time was kind of nuts.
Yeah.
It's like the ways in which it is cold. I knew the ways. The ways in which it is cold here.
The ways in which
my ankles in the shower. Like it's just weird things have been strange adjustments. But yeah, I expected there to be, even though I understand the COVID restrictions, I expected there to be a bit more interaction, maybe on my part. So I had to kind of like brace for that. I also thought I would be working a little bit more. Like I did come here with stuff to do and just didn't do much of it.
You did bring a lot of books.
I brought a billion books. I read, but I kind of read mainly photo books, not.
Is that reading?
It's disrespectful. And don't disrespect photography.
I'm just joking. It's just a joke. But yeah.
What about you? What did you expect?
I don't know what to expect. Because I came in here like not knowing much about residencies, and really not thinking. For this year, I had the show at the Chrysler, and I was talking to Seth, the curator of that show, and I was telling him, I was like, I still don't feel like an artist. And I don't think I'll ever feel like one. And I always thought residencies were just strictly for artists and writers and all of that. So I was like, okay, this is really not my place to be.
I know that photographers do a lot of artist residencies, but even for us, it feels like residencies are just not, it's like for painters and for sculptors and for like, not even really performance artists, but like the more that I do residencies, the more I like realize that there's a very particular set of photographers who have done the residency circuit, who I always see like on their CV that they did this place and that place. But, I always try to encourage a lot of lens-based artists, like specifically filmmakers and cinematographers and directors, because y'all write movies and you like, have things that you need to sequence and edit. Like there are things that you can do where you would need the time at a residency.
For sure.
So I really wish more people understood that.
And I double that.
Yeah.
Because after spending time here, I want to come back and I want to do more of this. Because it really is refreshing.
Yeah.
Especially with this, what happened this year, what's been happening the past 3 months.
Yeah.
It was a good break from everything. And even the setting, you're in nature compared to the streets
compared to Brooklyn.
Compared to Brooklyn.
Compared to Harlem and the Bronx.
Compared to Harlem and all that. Yeah. And it's just a change of scenery, change of pace.
So tell me some more things about like what the year has been like for you. What have you been up to? What creative endeavors have you been up to?
So for the start, like back in April of 2019, well, since April of 2019, I've been working on prepping for the show, the Chrysler Museum show, which was the photo exhibition and along with the video installation. And so that took a lot of my time, and we finally showed it back in June. Though COVID messed it up because we were supposed to open it in March, but all of that happened. And so I was dealing with that, but prior, when the COVID lockdown happened, I was writing that script, and it took longer than expected. And yeah, I was just working on that, working on other things with Couscous in terms of video and figuring out what I wanted to do next. Because it felt like I've done what I needed to do at this certain level. It's time to step it up a notch and figure out what I could do to make myself better, and just grow as an artist. Well, now I'm an artist.
some melange of the two.
Yeah. So just a lot of thinking, just a lot of thinking. This year I didn't really do much, though I did do a lot.
Yeah, you did.
It still felt like I didn't do much.
And I saw the show at the Chrysler Museum. It was really beautiful,
Appreciate
really well
it.
put together.
Thank
a lot
you.
of photos, great video installation.
Thank you.
What was it like having your first museum show? Did you
It felt really awkward. That's the thing people don't talk about. It was amazing. Don't get me wrong. This is like I don't even have any words to explain how happy I was. So don't get it wrong. I was happy and I was excited for I'm still excited now because it was the first museum I've ever went to in America when I moved here. And so for that museum to be the first place I show my work, it was my first exhibition, my first whatever. For it to be there, it was a special moment. But there was an awkward feeling underneath all that, being that I was young and one part of me was like, wait, do I deserve this? Like, is this really it just felt really weird. And so that's one thing that a lot of people didn't talk about. And I just didn't have anyone to talk that about with. And so, yeah, but it was an amazing experience. I learned a lot, and I learned, because, I work mostly in digital with photos. And so having that physical
making prints
and all of that, and, thinking about space and how people view the image, what size, eye level and all of that, the way you pair it and sequence the images. It was just a lot of other things to think about that I never really thought about. And now, as I'm telling you this, I'm realizing that the new stuff I want to work on, it's heavily informed on that museum experience, and especially that little installation I did with the sound, because that was the first thing I wanted to do.
Yeah, I remember you told me that when we first met.
That was honestly, if we're gonna be honest, I did that whole show for my parents. That one installation was just literally my parents.
Yeah,
it was the image of my dad and the voice, my mother's voice.
Yeah.
And I just did it for them. Sadly, because of COVID, my father, he wasn't able to experience it, which sucks. But I don't know. That's just I have to solve that problem. It's like, how can I show my father this thing in a new way? So that's why I'm making a book. Yeah. I just jumped into it. I just went into it. Okay. Enough about me, though.
No, please. Actually, fill the space with so much more about you. I think the year, I started the year, it was this year.
Wait, you started the year in London?
Crazy, yeah. So I started the year in London, and in Italy for a few days. And then I came back to New York. I was in New York for about maybe a month and a half. And then
when did you come back?
I came back January 21st.
Oh.
And then I left March 17th. Irrelevant information. But yeah, so almost 2 months I was in New York, and yeah, when I came back, I was working a bit. Went to see my family in Baltimore for a period of time, and then when COVID happened, I just remember just not. I mean, nobody took it seriously because we are not prepared in this country to deal with something like that. Or, I mean, I don't think the world is prepared, but I think the rest of the world has dealt with such kind of visible, widespread hardship and trauma in different ways. So it felt like it just feels like nobody was prepared for COVID. So I remember when I found out that things were shutting down. Like I had a shoot for Esquire, and I think it was in Baton Rouge or something. And I was like really excited to go take these photographs and like to work with these people. And when they started shutting things down, I got like really angry. I was like, why are y'all taking these precautions? Like, girl, it's not that serious. And then when the whole shoot came falling apart and my assistant didn't want to go to New Orleans anymore, I was like, okay, maybe I should take it seriously. But then I was like, I was going to have my best friend who lives in Hawaii, come here to New York. Well, come to New York. And instead I just went to Hawaii and ended up staying there for 77 days of the pandemic.
It was really 77
It was 77 days. And it was it was intense. We were staying on the side of a mountain. So like looking down on the city, and like it felt dystopian. Yeah. It felt like we were completely disconnected from the reality of stuff. More so with like my family back home, where like when I FaceTime my mom, like they're really going through shit, and I'm on a mountain in Hawaii, and it just really felt. It wasn't like it was a flex. It seemed at first, but it really got kind of sad. Yeah. And then like people there, I guess nobody took it really seriously because the numbers in Hawaii were incredibly low. I think when I left, maybe they had 650 cases and 17 deaths. Wow. Whereas in New York, we were, oh my God, I don't even remember, but I think we were like,
New York was horrible.
We were at, I almost want to say we were at 100,000 when I got back. So it was insane. It was scary to come home, but the time there was really nice. I did a lot of like creative stuff while I was there. I shot some stuff, which was really fun and beautiful. I always wanted to shoot an assignment when I was in Hawaii. Finally got the chance to shoot 2 things. I wrote a lot. It was very nice. So when I came back, I was starting a fellowship, the MDoc Storytellers Institute, and it was weird. Like we were supposed to be in upstate New York, and we were in our rooms and in various places on Zoom for a month. It was crazy. The George Floyd, Breonna Taylor protests were Sean Reed, and the protests were getting insane. Yeah. And it was just a strange time to return to New York from where I was coming from. It just felt very odd and uncomfortable. So that fellowship was kind of like a labor. Like it was such a beautiful experience to have a safe space in that way. Like it felt like an inconvenience until I got there. And then when I would get there, I'd be like, oh, I really need this every day. Because the people are fabulous, and like you can be honest about the struggles that we're having. But like it was a community in a moment where I was really just coming back into isolation in a different way. So it was really confusing and like difficult in June. July, work started like getting bananas for a lot of Black photographers with the same kind of like, oh my God, Black people exist, y'all? We got to hire Black people now. So then they started hiring Black people, and it was crazy. And then we started working a lot. And there's like been this push where a lot of Black photographers have been speaking about how difficult it's been to not seem ungrateful for the load of work that we've been receiving. And I don't know if you've experienced this, but like also when we're getting this work, it's oftentimes like we're being mistreated with the work. Like the turnaround times are intense. The pay isn't equal to what a lot of people would be paid shooting normally. It just seems like they're rushing to fill the pages. You know, and I've had like a lot of weird experiences with magazines this summer specifically where they just, you know, you can tell how you're being treated. It represents that you were a last minute decision, that they really don't want you to be there, but you're kind of doing a thing. So it was difficult in that way to kind of navigate those spaces, but I did work with like some of my favorite magazines for the first time. Like WSJ was amazing. So that was fun. So worked through the rest of the summer. So coming here felt like literally the first time to just sit still, because everything has been back to back to back to back to back all summer. Yeah, so it's been really nice to think about and like I've started to like really take seriously the idea of celebrating my accomplishments with the kind of like largeness that I would want other people to celebrate them, and just kind of making it a personal thing. So I've been buying myself a lot of flowers and kind of just cultivating that space of celebration around myself with like buying myself stuff and, you know, taking the moment to sit with the work that I've made and like how important it is that, you know, I'm working during this time.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Amazing. That's amazing. So I'm just getting into it. I'm going to interview you now.
It doesn't seem like that's necessary.
It's going to happen.
You don't have to do any of that.
I will be doing that.
All right, great.
No, just because, you know, a lot of the things you said, especially with everything that's happened with, you know, the protests and all that, and the abundance of work that Black photographers, Black directors, Black anything really have been getting this past couple months, and the circumstances they've been getting them in, like in terms of the deadlines and all that. You know, I just got like one of my big breaks, and I'm in the middle of like, wait a minute, is it because of this? Mm-hmm. And you just don't know. Luckily, you know, I told them, I was like, yo, like I hope it's not anyway like this, and it's not. I didn't get chosen because of the situation, and luckily it wasn't. But you know, it's hard not to feel like
you never
just,
know.
yeah.
Like you never really know. And I think, unfortunately, with the state of white supremacy, is that you really this isn't a new moment at all. Like there's no point in history in which Black people have accomplished things where there haven't been white people there to be like, oh, you got this because of affirmative action or because of an offering of some kind.
Yeah.
And B, where Black people haven't internalized, even when that's not said, that the possibility of them having an achievement is rooted in the fact that they're Black and that they're actually serving an actual purpose, to make a person look good or to fill a spot or to do this, that, and the fourth. So I don't want to make it seem like this is a new thing, but
For sure.
it's very intense right now. Like it feels like I'm a part of a community of lens-based artists, and I'm hearing all of them say the same things, where it's like the work, it's been an overload. Like it's been an intense overload of work, and, you know, we're grateful to have it, but like, then we hear like people getting their names misspelled when the publications come out, people being paid like 3 months later than they were supposed to be paid. Like just a lot of stuff that's going on that just normally isn't the way that these publications do business, because you can ask your peers. Like we're not in a time where people aren't communicating. We know if you're underpaying us. We know, you know, if people are being mistreated, it's going to become public. Even if it's not like a public bashing, we're going to find out. Yeah. So there's been a lot of that, and it's just challenging.
How do you think it's going to play out? Give it like after the election, after maybe March of next year.
I don't know.
Because in the back of my head, I'm like, it's not going to last.
That's what everybody says. Yeah. That's what every person that I've spoken to says the same thing, or is that they're afraid that it's not going to last. And I don't know. One, because this is my career, and I don't want to like, you know, put that out there. But it's challenging to think about. Like when I think about that conversation that I'm having with people where they're like, it's going to dry up. The work is going to dry up. I think about like 90s television, and I talk about this all the time. Like in the 90s, late 80s, 90s, Black television was moving in a particular way where it was like less Black dramas on television, more Black comedies. And like there was a very particular image of Black people that was being pushed. And it was being pushed very intensely. It was like 2 or 3 Black shows a night. They had Black nights on certain web channels. And then like towards the end of the 90s, everything kind of pushed to UPN. Martin went off the air, Living Single went off the air. Everything got kind of jammed into this small space. And then when those shows kind of stopped around 2003, 2004, there was just like a period where there were no Black people on TV. Like on main... like I forgot what you call it, but like on the main nights of television, like the Thursday night slots, and all, there was just no Black people to be found. And then they were like maybe a few cast members on the show. That's where we really started to see these token characters kind of come to pass. And there was this moment where like Black people were the whole point of television, and then they were not even on TV at all for maybe like arguably until around Scandal and around How to Get Away. And during that time, we see this resurgence of Black people coming back and getting really serious roles and doing like serious dramas and blah, blah, blah. And I've always thought about that as as kind of the projection. The same thing with black movies. There was a piece that came out in the New York Times from black directors talking about kind of how that black bubble burst in the 90s and how so many of them were like popular, but then they got pigeonholed and typecast and sexism and patriarchy. All these other things like stopped these brilliant black minds from being able to make their work or making their work in the ways that they wanted to make it. So it became like, you know, less mainstream or indie. They had to self-fund or they just didn't get to make anything. And it's sad because that's how our history has been in this country, where we're just out of, like, we go in and out of vogue. And we're never in and out of vogue to each other. And like the people that are artists are always making work that's important. But like the reality is it needs to be funded, it needs to be shown. And yeah, I think that unfortunately, if you want to be ahistorical and hopeful, yes, it will, you know, we'll be in this moment forever and black people will continue to work. But if you want to, like, you know, if, I don't know, I'm not optimistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same. So you're going to give me a different answer. And I was like, okay. But
I'm not optimistic. I'm a fatalist. So I'm never optimistic. But I'm definitely not optimistic about that. Because it's not historically accurate. But yeah, it's unfortunate.
It is. Yeah. It really is. And it's, I don't know, it's just, because I'm still fairly new to all this. And I'm already getting jaded. And I'm like, wait, I haven't really been here like that long.
I think that there's a way to push past that. Like I do think that I think that even the best black artists who have made work, like Spike Lee is jaded. Have you met Spike Lee? Like he's really a jaded person. No shade to Spike Lee, but he definitely has like a jaded kind of energy to him. And most of the, let me not name any more names, but the black people that I've met who have accomplished and who are like kind of household names, if you have a conversation with them, the jaded comes out immediately. They manage to persevere because they push through and because it's kind of, that's all you have. You're an artist. If that's what you are trained to do, if that's what your passion is and you found it, that's kind of all you have to offer. But, you know, I don't think that the jaded is the worst part. I think that jaded is like the kind of reality of doing the business.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that makes sense. But you should never ever let it like interfere. Just prepare.
Yeah. And speaking of preparation,
I'm actually trembling, yo. Like, I don't know if you can hear it. I'm shaking. It's so Jesus Christ.
I'm relaxed.
Good, great.
But so COVID. So it did a lot of things in terms of the film industry, even with the creatives. How did it affect you creatively?
How did it affect you? How was it like kind of navigating that space, watching?
It's like, imagine there's certain shots you just can't do.
That's insane.
And those certain shots are just common shots that you always have. And now you have to rethink everything. The way you shoot everything is, you have to shoot it differently. And you always have to, because when we did the video last month, we were getting tested every day, it felt like. And I remember it was a 3-day shoot, and I think there was like two crew members that had COVID. And luckily it wasn't the like, you know, the top, you know, department heads. But yeah, like imagine if it was one of the actors or if it was one of like the DP or something, like that would have just messed up everything. And so creatively, like my producers will tell me, you know, just when you're thinking of ideas, don't worry about COVID or anything, just think freely and then we'll figure it out after. But it's kind of hard not to, because I've done that. And they were like, this is amazing. But then we're like, well, the reality is we can't shoot any of that because of COVID and all. And last month, I think a crew member died because he contracted COVID on set. And, you know, we're just like, what do we do? The whole remote shooting has become a thing. And there was this one project we were thinking of shooting it in Ireland and South Africa. And having 2 directors be like on-set directors, and I would direct them via Zoom call. And I remember feeling, I was like, wait a minute, okay, this is me just being selfish. I was like, I don't want to share like my idea with anyone because I really enjoyed the idea. And I was like, and it's one of those things where, for me, and tell me if I'm wrong, but as a black filmmaker, when you're exploring like these abstract thoughts, you know, it's usually tied to someone that's white or and whatnot. And I'm like, no, I want to just to be purely me, and I don't want people thinking this is like, you know, the only reason I'm going into this abstract world is because of these other directors. No shade to the other directors. I love them and I respect them.
I mean, your early career. So this stuff has a different impact. You have to kind of own your IP.
Yeah.
You have to kind of like champion your ideas and like
For sure
be the face of them.
Yeah.
And this, that
it was just like really annoying. And I was like, man, is it me? Like, am I wrong for thinking of this? Like thinking this way? But well, thank you for because you're actually the first person I told. This is actually the first time I've been.
Okay, well,
think about it.
It's on
Talking
video,
about
so
it. Yeah, I'm venting
out there now.
I'm venting. It's out there now.
Yeah, that's been a doozy.
It's just been, I don't know, with every, you know, all the videos that are coming in, it's related somehow to the protest of Black Lives Matter and all that. And there was this one incident, it just makes no sense to me. It was for an organization, and they were pushing for something that I agreed with. And, you know, it related to the whole, you know, the movement, the Black Lives Matter movement and everything with that. And I remember reading the script, and the title of the script it said "Da Bill," D-A Bill. And I remember looking at the production company that approached us, approached Couscous and I about the project. And I was like, wait a minute, it's an all-white production company. The title of this is called "Da Bill." And as I'm reading, I'm like, okay, looks weird. And of course, you know, I tried to save it because I was like, I really agree with what's happening, what this is for. But it just got to a point where I'm like, wait a minute, are you guys really doing this to help the cause, or, you know, just to get awards and accolades and all that for doing something so good? And I don't know, it's just getting annoying because I really just want to make stuff that could be timeless and everybody can enjoy it. It just happens to have Black people in it.
Yeah.
That's really it. But it's always about like, no, think about this, that. I'm like, I don't want to think about it. I've already have to think about it enough in the real world.
Yeah.
Like, this is my time to escape. It just gets annoying.
Yeah. I had the experience of shooting during this time has been like very bizarre. I did, I think, 2 shoots remotely. Hated them both. We were photographing I was photographing computer screen. It's just not. It's
a different experience.
There's just no way. So I've gotten offers for like a few others and have turned. And now I would never. Yep. I actually would just never do it again. Yeah. If we can't figure something out in person, it just won't be able to happen. But you know, it's been very challenging trying to shoot that way because most of my images are about the connection with the person and like that kind of intimacy and trying to like sit and make sure that we prioritize intimacy in the image. And I will say both of the experiences were great in their own things. Like the second one I photographed Gugu, I think it's Gugu Mbatu Raw. I might be messing her name up. I hope to God I'm not. But Gugu, I photographed her. She was in LA and I photographed her for Soho House magazine. I didn't love the images.
Did you show me?
I don't know. I didn't show much of anyone. I didn't show the photos. I didn't like them. I mean, she was magical and beautiful and hilarious and texted me for weeks afterwards about random things. So I thought she was fabulous. But it's just not, I couldn't do what I wanted to do. I'm a technical photographer and I do love kind of the technical things about making an image as well. And if an image ain't sharp, it's not sharp. And if it's photographing a computer screen with bad internet connection in a hotel, it's like, look, y'all, we can't do much more. So, you know, I wish, and I told everybody involved, it's like, I wish I could have gotten to photograph her in person. I'm going to go to London. She lives in London. I will literally photograph this woman. Don't play with me. Give me the opportunity. But like, anyway, yeah, it's been challenging. And then on sets, I mean, a lot of like, precautions, getting tested a lot. I photographed Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, and that was a doozy because of the COVID restrictions. And oh my God, I mean, just the front end and the back end of that was pageantry. It was like, don't move like this. Don't breathe like that. Don't come too close. Don't. All right, they can only do masks, but they gotta have 10 feet. And I'm like, wait, 10 feet? Everybody doing 6 feet. Do y'all know something we don't know? Like, is 6 feet not enough? Like, let me know. It was really like,
I heard 13 feet.
Listen, they have had several feet. Okay? So it's just been like really challenging trying to like still find a way to make honest photographs. So it's beautiful photographs are fine, but like to make a photograph that goes, this caught something in that moment is really challenging when you got to stay away from people, or when, you know, when I photographed Trevor Noah, there would be periods where he was near me with no mask, but he would be, you know, 6 feet, and I would like, I'm naturally like, I would approach, and he would, you know, back it up. So it was really a lot. And there were also times where I was shooting people where it just naturally, that bubble popped, where like that 6 feet bubble just popped between both people, where the person would come over and look at the camera, and I'd be like, girl, ooh. So, you know, we're wearing our masks. But it's been really challenging trying to like make it work.
For sure.
But you know, I mean, shaking things up, I guess it has done and made me feel like more, not spontaneous, but like I've had to challenge a lot of the ways that I've been thinking about making images and the ways that I like run a set. So there have definitely been some positives, but it's been mostly just challenge.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to see how COVID is going to affect, like, one, how films will be made and what kind of films.
I don't know if he's excited. I don't know if you should be excited to see.
It's just a challenge.
Okay.
It's just a challenge. And, you know, it just makes it a bit difficult, but that's the fun part. It's like trying to figure it out. But it's already happening.
Yeah.
Because even
everything's back to filming now.
Yeah. And, but like, you know, with the DPs, the lenses they use, a lot are, well, not a lot, but what I've seen is a lot of the scenes are isolated. It's just one person. They're focusing on one person. Or if it's a couple of people, it's usually like families and whatnot. But for me, I'm interested to see, like, because, you know, at first, me and my EP were talking, and I kept having these ideas of like, yeah, you know, it reminds me of what's happening now. And he was like, yo, just don't, like, stop thinking that way. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And he was just like, focus on the feeling and just figure something out that's timeless, because COVID is going to go away eventually.
We hope.
It will go away.
Okay. Yeah, we hope.
It will go away.
Okay.
But this feeling that we're feeling now is going to be the same 20 years from now.
Yeah.
And it was the same, you know, what people felt 20 years before. And just capturing that feeling.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people are too focused in on, you know, making something about the times now, which is important. But then it's like a double-edged sword. It's like you don't want to get trapped in here, but you kind of want to represent it as well. Yeah,
I noticed that. So I've seen a lot of writers talk about the struggle to write in this moment, because you don't want to. I mean, we are literally in a moment. Like,
we're
I
in
hate
a
the
moment.
term, but like this is a historically significant moment across every spectrum you can like imagine.
For sure.
And you know, it's really challenging not to look at, like, you'll have to be responsible for your words differently now. During this moment, and like, I don't know, it's been hard to think about like when I was in Hawaii and I was like making a lot of portraits, that was really just about interiority, like what was going on inside and what the challenge was of being where I was, where my family was back home. You know, the difficulties of being like within inches of my best friend, who I love more than life, but like I wanted to fight her ass every day. Like I wanted to fight Malcolm daily. And you know, what the challenge of kind of navigating such an isolated space for that long is, and like thinking about my friends who live alone, and like people who have like real health issues and immunocompromised folks. And it's been a lot, and making work during this time, it really feels both way too grand and futile. Like it feels like whatever work I make is not going to live up to the moment, but it also feels like just the moment. So it's just so big. And like whatever you do is just not going to manage to encapsulate the importance of like how we should be responding. But I mean, when the AIDS, which I always consider a pandemic, when the AIDS pandemic first hit the scene, like, you know, there are artists who were there like documenting every part of that process. And, you know, we lost an entire generation and a half of gay men of a certain age, where like gay people now don't even have elders, but like they have a very limited array of, especially Black gay men, like trying to find examples of like elders who like lived through this thing and like managed to survive however they did. And like, you know, understanding queerness as I age, you know, I really struggle for like aspects of representation, because there is an entire generation who nobody else can say that. Like there is a generation of people who fit a particular archetype who no longer, like, who are missing from the planet. who we have like bits and pieces of, and even those people are like stricken with PTSD because they survived something so insane. So when we talk about this pandemic going away, I really hope that it does, but we also have to understand that there's a world in which it may not.
Yeah.
And what does it look like to live with something like this, like for long periods of time? So thinking about that type of stuff with what I've understood about like HIV/AIDS, everything is so like big. So it's been very, very challenging to try to respond to that or to like do anything.
I think my problem is with people exploiting this moment.
Yeah, true.
That's actually
Yeah.
a weird
People are already writing movies.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And
like, there's a movie coming out, but I don't want to talk about that because that might be a movie that will bash Donald Trump. But no, it absolutely is a movie that will bash this fucking Lord. But
can you curse? I'm sorry.
Hey, but yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No. I was listening.
Yeah, there are definitely people who are going to chime in and like make things with maybe not the best intention.
For sure.
That will kind of like, because there are movies about HIV/AIDS that feel dangerous in what they do, and the ways that they speak and who they don't talk about, and the AIDS epidemic. There's a lot of that, and there will be a lot of that, and you just don't want to be a part of that. You just don't. But there have been, powerful images and powerful stories told so far on the pandemic. So I don't know.
Yeah, it was. So when I was in Virginia, I was there for like 2 months.
Yeah,
for that.
That's forever.
for that show. For that show, and the last day was my first time seeing my father after all this, and it was through the glass through the window because he's at the nursing home, and I started photography just documenting him, and at first I was exploiting him for sure because all I saw was like, when I first when I was learning photography, all I saw was like, to make a good image, you just need to find someone that's in pain and just capture that suffering, and then they'll create for a good image. It's a very immature way of thinking. But that's how I started taking photos of my father. That's why I started taking photos of my father, because I was like, that's an interesting subject. Interesting because he's suffering. And, it's something different, and it's not something that I'm used to or anybody's used to. So I was like, let me document this just for myself. And then over time, as I was documenting him, I realized that he really didn't know like how his physical and his whole mental was. And through the images that helped him realize like, okay, this is actually your reality. You can't turn off that light. You can't touch that switch because you'll keep falling. And if you keep falling, you'll have all these scars on your back from just like, hitting the edge of the wall or whatever. And so when he started seeing that, it kind of helped him not get better, but just realize his situation a bit more. And on that day, the last day I was in Virginia, to see my father, I was like, should I take this photo of him? Like because I just felt really weird because like, is it really helping him in any way? This doesn't help him. It doesn't show what his reality is in terms of his physical health or any of that. It just makes him a bit more sad because this is his reality. He's stuck in this room by himself. He can't see his family, and he's just in that bed, like not 24/7, but essentially 24/7. And I remember taking that photo, and I was like, I'll never use this. I don't want to show anyone this, and I don't even want to show anyone the images of my father because it's just for my father. But it's one of those things where like even when I showed it at the show, it was like exclusive to the show. I was like, wait, am I exploiting him? Is this right? I've asked for permission, but he's always going to say yes because he likes getting his photos taken. He loves his photo, getting his photo taken. But I'm coming to the point where I'm like, like if it's not for him, like what are my photographs? What would my photographs look like? And it would just be like more of like my brother and sister, but
I think that it's challenging. Yeah. Like it should not be dismissed as exploitation only. Yeah. It's kind of like what do you call it? Like street photography
for sure
has an ethics to it that white men have kind of like stamped on the ground. And like, this is the ethics. Like, this is the street. The streets in New York. You can make a photo. Like, this is what people do here. Like, half of the understanding that people visually who have never been to New York have are through street photography images. Literally, street photographers have built the image of New York City in tremendous ways. And I can't discount that importance, right? For like a historical importance, specifically Black people, like Black photos of Harlem. Like, I moved to New York because of Harlem. I moved to New York because of representations of Harlem, mainly seen in photographs. As a photographer, that's how I that's who I was aspiring to be in conversation with. Photographers like James Van Der Zee, who was making portraits in Harlem, which I was obsessed with. Dawit Bey, who's like my, Dawit Bey is my father, my photographic father. And he made a tremendous series, like several bodies of work about Harlem and his love of Harlem. But there, and with somebody like Dawit Bey, who used permission in his photographs, one could argue there was still some exploitation because, you make a photograph on the street, you get permission, you go to a studio, print it, and then you have an exhibition in which you sell a print. You're not running out to the street to be like, where's that guy again? Let me pay this person for what I just made. So like it's challenging. Your father could die, knock on wood. And, if he does, are these images for you or are they for him? Like, that is important too. Richard Avedon did a series on his father, Marvin Israel. And there was just people on both sides. It really was. It was people being like, this is a grotesque depiction of your father dying because he had a difficult relationship with him. Would the photos have been better if he fucking loved his father? Like, would they have been somehow more beautiful because you can see the love suddenly? Like, it is challenging to make images in that way. But like, this is also, you need to prioritize yourself because like your father, now that doesn't mean show the work or exhibit the work. I think that that's the conversation you need to be having. And like the ethics of that is internal. It's familial. Like, you might talk to your mom. Your mother might have a different opinion. I know how your mother is.
Well, she hates us.
So, I don't know. And also your father, the assumption that his vanity would make him say yes. He might be showing you vanity. It might be about leaving a legacy. You don't know that. It's challenging. And I don't, it gets challenging specifically. We know a lot of photographers who center, that kind of health trauma in their family. And it's complicated. Like Raheem Fortune made a beautiful body of work about his father, who unfortunately recently passed. And he struggled through every step of the way of making those images. But, how will they grow? Like, how will they change him as an artist, as a person? But how important is it that he has a record of his father? It might not be the most beautiful photos of him, like, living and active and healthy. But, like, come on, like, that is important too. So it's challenging, and I don't think that the response to the challenge is to be like, oh, I don't want to do that. I just think you need to sit with it for a really long time and understand that no matter what the outcome is, people might see these photos and be like, bruh. And then people might be like, these are stunning.
Yeah, so for sure. Yeah. I think as you were talking, I was just thinking of the images of my father that I took and the ones that like I really adore. And it's the ones without his face in it. The ones that, yeah, I think that's it.
I think there's a print on the way to my house from the show.
There's no.
There's a print that you promised to send me of the back of your father's head. That
I don't remember.
Absolutely, just
I don't remember.
Stunning. I don't know.
I think that was a different Dawit.
I think we're gonna check.
I think it's a different Dawit.
But I'm waiting on that print. But yeah, that work is important.
I don't know what a print is.
Okay,
I'm digital.
That's fair. Moving forward, collaboration.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
We tried that before. Let's talk about that.
So, we had tried to collaborate before.
Yeah.
How'd that go?
I mean, it went well for me. I did my part.
I think so. It was just challenging. So, over the holiday last year, over Thanksgiving, we went to our respective hometowns. So I went to Baltimore. And you came down and photographed my family over Thanksgiving. And then we drove to Annapolis, where you lived on the naval base for a period growing up. And I photographed you with your best friend. And then I photographed you at home in Virginia Beach with your family. What was that experience like for you?
I was like, wow, he's really photographing my family. He's photographing my dad. This is really weird.
Your father's so wonderful. I love it.
And, we're just to ourselves, and having someone come inside and then take photos of us is another thing. And then also having my father my mother, Adam and Sarah there, and we're like, oh, okay, everybody just smile and get the picture taken because after this is over. But the experience was fun though. It was like, wow, we finally have a picture. Because sadly, my mother, she was like, we need a photo of your father in his Navy suit or uniform, because the kids need to see that he was like, he was in the Navy. They need to see him in some sort of light. And they can't, because Adam, he's 12 right now, and the only thing he remembers of his father, well, not remembers, but all that he knows of his father is him in that wheelchair. He doesn't know of him as this officer in the Navy. And so she always wanted images of my dad in his uniform. Sadly, we just never were able to do that because of his health. And so we finally got the image. It wasn't the image she wanted, but we finally have something of all of us together. And a good quality too. And so that was good, and my mom was really happy. And for me,
she wanted me out y'all house.
She did.
She came in there every day.
Every day.
Like, is your flight today?
Is your flight today?
I was like, oh, it got pushed back. Yeah. And she was like,
okay. She spoke in.
And then came back and she was like, so tonight at 10? And I was like,
I don't believe that.
I'm gonna leave. She absolutely did. She was like, tonight at 10?
I'm just joking. Like, I would do the same. Okay. I would do the same.
All right.
I want people out of my house.
That's fair.
Immediately.
All right.
But the experience was amazing. And it was a crazy trip with everything that happened.
Yeah.
With everything that happened. You met my best friend of 10 years, Roy. And me and him, we don't have a photo together. And that was our thing. We were dumb enough to think that, like, wow, maybe this is a thing where our friendship would end.
Your friendship would end if you had a photo of you together.
It was the dumbest thing.
Into nothing.
Yeah. And then, of course, I know it was dumb. Yeah. But, yeah, we have the photos. It was an amazing experience. It was something I'll forever remember. And yeah, I don't know. Yeah. It happened quickly. I didn't really cherish the moment. How about you?
It was really like bringing. It wasn't the family thing to me because I have the people that are important in my life meet my family kind of just by force. That's just how it is.
Sure.
But like going back to my childhood home and neighborhood, and that was like, I mean, some things happened there that I won't talk about, but like it was a very challenging visit. It was like it was just strange. It was very strange.
Yeah.
Like that when you meet people and you have a new life somewhere else and you bring that new life to your old life, and it's just like, oh my God, what the fuck is like? But this was like a very intense version of that. It was really good and kind of beautiful, full circle moment, definitely for sure. But it was just like, it was emotionally very taxing. I think that cover came out right around then too.
Yeah.
So it really felt very full circle, and rewarding in its way. But like, woo, the emotion, like it was an emotional landslide.
Yeah.
But photographing your family I really had such a good time. Sure. I loved every aspect of that experience except for being in Annapolis. I hate Annapolis, but like, I loved photographing you and Roy. It was really beautiful to see you in this context because I think our relationship is just like kind of you and I.
Yeah.
And I don't get to see a lot of your friends because you keep them from me. And
let's pause it. But you're the one with the role that's like, I'm starting it
anyway. It was nice. It was nice to photograph you with Roy. To meet Roy, who you've spoken about so highly for so long.
I didn't really speak that highly of him.
Okay.
I'm just joking.
That's graceful.
I hope he doesn't see this.
I will tag him.
He's amazing.
Roy is great. Roy is great.
Me and him, wait, before you go on, one of our bonds, it was Duke, who, his name, 4 letters. He would call us the 3-letter, because I went by Sam.
You just think your stories are so interesting.
I know it's not that interesting, but I just thought of it.
Moving directly forward. It's been
like this for the past 2 weeks.
That was our first stab at collaboration. And we were going to write a story about names and naming oneself. and I could not complete my part of the story. I just didn't feel moved, and I write based off of that kind of vibration. I tried for weeks, and it just wasn't working. So we like paused that idea, and the photos are just kind of like hanging in midair. Hopefully, eventually be used. They're really beautiful. I really, really cherish them, even though I've never received any of the images of my family. I cherish my own images.
I've sent you images. I've sent you images.
Your family. So that was nice. So we were going to try to collaborate here as well. And we did an awful lot of collaborating. Like we kept beating ourselves up about like not being like, here is the project that we collaborated on for everybody. But like, we collaborated a great deal.
It felt like every day.
We collaborated a lot. So we made a lot of photographs, obviously,
every day,
of each other. And I'm considering publishing something of the photographs and doing a piece of writing to be in conversation with that and making it to a zine. So that might be a thing because you're not into zines.
I mean, I am.
You're not into zines. So if you are suddenly into zines, we can collaborate on this, but you appear to not
only on camera.
But yeah, that could be a part of the collaboration maybe in the future. But we also are both writing scripts for things that we can't discuss. And I can't. I definitely can't. But in that regard, we collaborated. We started talking about an outline. Last night we wrote a whole thing together. But
together
last night I wrote a whole thing.
I typed it up.
That Dawit typed onto the computer, written by me, physically typed by you.
So that's why I get a writer credit.
So yeah, it's been challenging. Trying to force work during a time where
for sure
we just wanted to like rest and use this space as respite. And realized kind of early on, like maybe the collaboration is like a later date type of thing. But we tried, and we succeeded at collaborating in a variety of ways.
I think last night was. I didn't mind last night.
I thought last night was great. So last night we worked on writing a prompt, writing a project, outline, synopsis, whatever you want to call it. It was lengthy. It was good. It was well thought out. There was a little choreography involved. So we danced for about 40 minutes.
For sure.
It was lit. It was really good. It was a great night. That was a great collaboration, but it's like hard to talk about it because no one can see.
Which it sucks because a lot of the things
that we do are like for
like
videos,
we can't speak
or for films, or for like other things, which is really fabulous, but like really challenging because you can't like share things.
For sure.
So, but yeah, we did collaborate a lot. We also collaborated in other ways, like we cooked meals all the time together, which may seem like a very small collaboration, but we did cook. Someone made a very weirdly flavored fajita.
Who was it?
I can't imagine. I made perfected steaks each time that I tried to make them. So it was good. It was good cooking. Yeah.
It was okay.
It was great. I have video proof of you eating those steaks like aggressively.
Yeah, because I just wanted to hurry up and get them.
I don't think so. Anyway.
It was okay.
It was great. So I think
8.5.
that for the collaboration, maybe the project isn't done, and maybe it's still an ongoing idea. But
I think it started something though.
I did. I do.
I truly think that.
I do.
Yeah.
So that was good, and I think that's the whole point of being here. Are you excited to get back to New York?
Yes, but then I know I'm gonna have to like get back to work.
Yeah.
Because I told my EP and all, I was like, hey, for these 2 weeks, I'm kind of like off the radar. Which means when I get back, it's going to be like, like, hey, you're back now. I'm like, oh, man. So, no, I'm excited. And we just moved.
Yeah, we also, another thing, we both just moved into our respective homes on the 1st of the month.
Yeah.
And, like, barely live there.
Yeah, barely.
And are likely to travel towards the end of the year and not live there. Yep. But we have to, like, go home and, like, make it a home.
How do you do that?
What?
Make a place a home? Because I'm used to every 2 or 3 years moving.
No, I'm the wrong person to ask. Like the place that I lived at in the Bronx, I lived there for 4 years. That's the longest I've lived anywhere in my life.
Yeah. So
I definitely am not the person. I move annually, usually maybe twice a year. I don't think that this place that I'm at will be that for me, unfortunately. But I love. I mean,
it seems like it with everything happening.
I want to make it feel like, and it is, and it does. It feels great. It's beautiful. I think it'll be a great place for the year. But I also think I've gotten a lifestyle now. Like I'm addicted to traveling a lot.
Yeah.
Like, and for my own, like
You
for
be
my
traveling.
own ability to like rest and reset and to see my friends that are all over the place, and to make new work and interesting work that's not like kind of tethered to being in the States and being in New York City.
Yeah, it's hard to make photos in New York City.
It is so challenging. They're so
Like I don't want to pick up the camera in New York City.
I don't.
You know, every time I go back home to Virginia.
Well, no, let me rephrase because I'm about to play on my own face. I love making images in Harlem. Nothing on the planet Earth brings me the kind of pleasure that brings me. No other kind of photo. Like I love that. It feels like I'm literally walking down the street on the phone with Dawit. Like it feels like I'm directly connected to my like idols. But I have not made photos in Harlem because of the traveling, and I just moved to Harlem for the first time in the whole 6 years I've been in New York, dying to live in Harlem, and now I live there. But also, I'm just like, I would like to be in London right now. I just feel like I need to be in Hackney today.
Yeah.
So that's probably where I'll be.
True. That's amazing.
Yeah. The life.
You're living it.
We're trying.
Yeah. Well,
all right. Thank you for seriously. Thank you for coming with me. This was really lovely.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for asking me.
Yes.
This was an experience that I'll forever remember.
I'm glad that you got ample sleep every night without any pranks, without...
Yeah, the pranks are going to have to stop. We have 2 more nights.
We really should have talked about all the pranks.
Just relax. Because every night...
The nightly screams.
My God.
Oh my God. You are so easy to scare. That's the only reason that it happens. Please.
Wait.
Please. Don't.
You scream and you scare me.
Great.
I get scared, yes.
And then you scream.
Jump. I'm like, damn.
You scream.
That's it. I don't scream.
You have a very vocal scream.
You're really painting this narrative.
I'm going to move forward.
I'm going to look into the camera. He's a lie.
I think I'm telling the truth.
I'm going to record.
Thank you for coming.
You're such a lie.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Love you.
I love you less. All right.